Okay, I have a couple things I want to just mention really quickly as we begin to assemble these into our little diptych. Well, first, I don't like how just bright white this is, so I will, if I'm making this for a gift or for myself or to sell, I think that I would go in with just a tiny bit again of kind of washy, watery paint, maybe in one of the blues that I've used, and sort of just, give it a hint of color. Maybe even take, let's see, maybe a little bit of that magenta, little watery magenta, and fill in some of the open letters. It's these little touches that you will experiment and play with that will, help it look the way that you want it to look. So anyway, that'll dry quick, so that's no big deal. The other thing that you could do, if you're a glittery person, you could spray this with a little bit of varnish. I like to use like a Krylon Kamar varnish. You could use a little bit of brush on varnish if you wanted to, but then you could take something like, I love this, it's actually nail polish, but it has like this really cool, fun, I don't know if it's even glitter, it's more, I guess it's sort of like a chunky glitter, and you could add some little touches here and there, sort of a fun thing to do for celestial pieces. But I'm not a super glitter person, but sometimes a little bit is fun on this type of thing. And definitely in my moon or celestial themed things, a little touch of glitter here and there adds a little extra sparkly dimension. So that was just a little afterthought I thought I would share with you. Obviously let that dry. And now you can do your assembling a couple different ways. First, you can get these tiny little hinges. And I think you can even get them smaller than this, but I got these just at the local hardware store. And unfortunately, the little screws are too long for this, so I don't use screws. I actually use nail glue, brush on nail glue. And, you can hinge them. The hinges for these have to go in the front if you want it to fold perfectly flat. Okay, so see, because when you look at them, they fold in that way to be flat. So if you want this to be able to fold closed, and I don't want to put them on each other yet because that glitter I added is still wet, but if you want this to be able to fold closed like a book, you have to put your hinges in the front. It doesn't really bother me. If you don't like the way they look, you can always paint them, okay? And if you adhere them to the back, you can do that as well, but just know that it will not fold shut. It will only go about that, it will, because it doesn't fold in that way. So, you need to line up your pieces. And then I put a little bit of nail glue on each side of my hinge. And then just, obviously before I glue it, I like to get it lined up just right. And you need to leave enough space between them to where, sadly, I don't have any actual technical, measurements for you, but this is something you just kind of have to play with. But you need to leave enough space in between for that hinge to set, to be in the middle of your gap, Does that make sense? So this hinge needs to set in the middle of that gap. That's just about right. And I would say that's about 1/4 of an inch. But of course it's going to depend on how big or how small your hinges are. And then you just need to decide, you know, it's nice to get them even. So if you put them about, 1/4 of an inch up, you want it to be 1/4 of an inch from the top as well. So if you know me at all, then you know I'm not a perfectionist in that way. I kind of eyeball it. I'm not real super finicky if it's perfectly 1/4 inch from the top and bottom, but you know, as long as it looks good enough to the eye, I'm good with that. So about like that. Then I would put my brush on 30-second nail glue onto my hinges and set them there and let them dry. You know, 30-second nail glue doesn't take that long to dry, so you should be good to go within a couple minutes. The other thing that you can do if you don't want to use hinges or you don't have hinges is you can take a piece of cardstock or a piece of scrapbook paper and you can cut it to the, okay, so these are each 3.5 by 5. So together they would be 7 by 5. And so I cut a piece of paper 7.5 by 5, okay? And this is just some scrapbook paper. And you can, honestly, I don't know if I would want a whole 1/2 inch in between or not, but so you could maybe go like 7.25 by 5, but I really think that I wanted it to fold, so the 1/2 inch will be fine. And then I would just put glue all over the back of my stamp board. I would use, this is the glue that I like to use, this PVA for bookbinding and paper projects. And I would put a nice coating of glue across the whole thing. And then line it all up, lay it down. Do the same thing on this one, line it all up, lay it down. And then leave this little space in between where I could score and then fold it together. I'm going to go ahead and finish this up off camera and I'll bring it back and show it to you. I will show you one with a hinge and one done with paper. Okay, so here I did what I said, and I put some white glue all over the backs of each of my stamp board panels, and then I adhered the scrapbook paper to it, leaving just about a little more than 1/4 of an inch and a little less than 1/2 an inch seam down the middle. And then this way I could just fold it over, and you could mail it to somebody this way, or just set it up on your table or desk and you have a little diptych like that. If I wanted to, I could have painted or stamped this seam, but now I'm deciding that I am not going to keep it like this, and I'm going to go ahead and show, and I'm going to go ahead and put the hinges on there. So I'm going to just cut this paper off, which actually this will make it really nice because now the backs of my panels will be covered with this nice paper. So let me go ahead and line those up. Take my nail glue. And of course you want to be careful not to get the nail glue on the actual folding part of the hinge. Also, not to get it on your fingers if you can help it. I have had my manicuring license, my nail tech license, for over 30 years, so I have got my share of nail glue on my fingers before. And like I said, it doesn't take long for it to set up. And there you have it. So you can fold it, and again, like I said, have it setting on your desk or your tabletop. Makes a wonderful gift. Not only, of course, can you do all the moon themes, but these are great if you want to do seasonal things for like the holidays, birthday cards, just you name it. A fun project. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you again in our next videos. Have a great week. Sending you moonbeams.